heretical way or whatever, you become an apostate, you become a non-believer, you become an outsider. You apostatize yourself. They had apostated themselves in their decision to make accommodations with bad Muslims like the Umayyads. These people were very extreme. They're like today. In fact, I don't see any difference, as I told you, between Harajis and bin Laden groups. They're exactly the same. So nothing has changed in these areas of Islam. And if you knew that's why I think these courses are good. If you were a student of Islamic history, you would understand all these movements very clearly. They wouldn't be surprising to you at all. The Harajis hung out in the far reaches of the empire, just like we're having now in the far reaches of the Islamic world. And all of us have to invite me down to Washington, and I clue them in on all this stuff. But they never did, and they never have, and so they keep on stumbling because they don't know anything. But nothing would be surprising if you just knew anything about the history of Islam. You would know what a Shiite was, you would know what a Sunni is, you would know that there's very little common ground in the end, and that these things are not going to be reconcilable, and so on and so forth. Lots of things you would know, but these people love to go into situations blindly, and they reap the rewards. 2,000 dead Americans who unfortunately were not properly prepared for the situation that they were forced to face. And it's very sad in a way. As I told you, I'm not against the enterprise of constitutional democracy in any part of the world. But it seems to me you have to go in with some understanding of what you're going to face. Never mind. That's neither here nor there. The point being that Harajis existed then and they exist today. And bin Laden and his group of people, and they think it's permissible to make war on fellow Muslims who are bad Muslims. That's normal for them, and that's what Harajis felt. Now, normal Muslims at that time didn't think it was permissible to make war on fellow Muslims, good or bad. They didn't think that a bad Muslim had apostated him or herself just because he wasn't a good Muslim. But that was their view, and that's the ideological underpinning that why it was permitted to kill fellow Muslims. And this was pretty new. Of course, Ali didn't approve of that, and he made war against them, and he suppressed them. Then they fled out to the outer parts of the Islamic world. But some of them who had been injured in the fighting and had lost dear, someone is always injured in fighting, and someone always has a bad feeling, a grudge about the fighting, who had lost dear ones, blamed Ali and assassinated him. That's the official story. I don't see anything to really feel that that's wrong. And as I told you before, there are moments in history that are really important. If Ali's descendant, Hassan and Hussein, had waited till 683 when Yazid died and there were no heirs, the situation that the Marwanids took over from would have been much less clear, and I think that the Alids would have had a much better chance of reasserting themselves. You see what I mean? So 3 years there made all the difference. If they waited 3 years, everything probably would have been different in the Islamic world. But as it was, the partisans of Hussein did go under promises from southern Iraq. Is southern Iraq Shiite today? Yes. Southern Iraq was already Shiite sympathetic back then, and invited them from Medina to come to southern Iraq. And they were caught by the Umayyad police near this town that we presently call Karbala. And they were butchered there, some 70 or so partisans and family members of Hussein. And that then becomes part of the Shiite grievance. Not only vengeance for Ali, but vengeance for his son Hussein. So we have two imams murdered. And that creates this whole ethos of feeling of being badly done by, wanting vengeance, potential terrorist organizations. I was looking at the history of the Crusades, badly done as it might be, on the History Channel the other night. And they were talking about the Third Crusade and about Salah ad-Din's difficulties with a guy called Nur ad-Din in northern Syria in a town called Aleppo, or Halab in Arab parlance. And it was said that Nuruddin started sending out assassins to assassinate his political enemies. And these people were called Hashashiyun, which is where we get the name assassin from, hashash, hashish, meaning grass man. And that's because they were supposed to have taken hashish, before they worked themselves into a mood to kill and be killed in the process. I don't think we need that these days, but that's where the English word assassin comes from, the Crusades. And this is almost endemic in Shiism in that period, feeling that, badly done by, and therefore Shiite, groups like Hezbollah, even today, for instance, in southern Lebanon and elsewhere, feeling badly done by, and people being willing to commit political murder and stuff like that. And that was already going on 1,000 years ago, more than 1,000 years ago. I guess we're talking about 1,300 years ago. So this is nothing new. This has actually been going on from the beginning. It maybe is quiescent for a long period of time, then it starts up again. So these curves are there, and of course the period I'm talking about, the Crusades, is only 1,000 years ago, or maybe 900 years ago, so maybe that's not 1,300 years ago. But the Shiite feeling of being angry at the outside world for having gotten a raw deal, as it were, persists through all of Shiite feeling, and it persists in Iran today. And you're not going to conciliate Shiite Iran. You could conciliate Shah Iran, who wanted to be Western and wanted to invest in a Western way, but you're not going to conciliate Shiite Islam. Because they have and the Ayatollah Khomeini is a perfect representative, they have a feeling going from way back of being gotten the bad end of the stick, being poorly done by, and a grievance, a feeling of grievance. That will persist, that will persist. That will persist 50 years from now, 100 years from now. It's in the fabric of the culture. Now, you don't see this among Sunnis. And I can always tell when a Sunni speaks to me and Shia, I know immediately from their mental state, which they are without their even telling me. In the Shiite, it's always a feeling there's a grievance that is behind things. And that grievance it expresses itself in that Ashura ceremony I told you about, where they go and celebrate young men, flagellate themselves, hit the top of their head so blood comes out, or flagellate their back, or whatever. How many have seen pictures of these Ashura flagellations? Yeah, you should.